It's the 4 days after Easter where we're like, oh, it's only a 4-day week. And we get to Thursday lunchtime where we're like, oh my God, when is the weekend? When is the weekend? It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's the amount of chocolate I ate at the weekend that is affecting me. But yes, I'm like, it seems a much longer week than usual. And it's
as in not enough chocolate, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to go straight into questions. Mel, if you've got a question.
Sure, why not? A couple of things. I think, I had that sort of grievance going on and then the person left. So I guess that technically means it's not happening. Is there some way I should, like from a documentation point of view, draw a line under that? Or do I just sort of think, oh, well, she's gone, I'll just leave it?
When did they go? Remind me.
She left about 3-4 weeks ago, I guess.
I would probably say, Nadia, you feel you want to say something.
How far through the grievance process were you?
Right, so I'd spoken to both separately and I was waiting for one of them to come back in order to get them to speak together or to come up with a plan as to how we could.
Mal, you've gone on mute.
So I had spoken to both of them separately and then one was coming back. So the plan was then to come up with a plan as to how to make everyone happy and for the other one to maybe them to talk together and all this sort of thing, get over it. But obviously one went before the other came back.
Okay. And what would your outcome have been if the person had not left?
We would have had that meeting and agreed a way to move forward, I guess, that was happy for both.
Okay, so would you have found that their grievances were upheld, or would you have found that they?
Well, in reality, because I was looking into things and digging into things during that process, I found acts of gross misconduct on the point of the grievee. Yeah. So I would have technically dismissed her on that grounds, but she left before.
Okay. So I don't know what Carolyne's view is on this, but I would probably document for yourself and for your internal process exactly what the grievances were, what your investigation was, what you found in your investigation, and therefore what your outcome would have been. So that if she ever comes back and says, my grievance wasn't heard properly or managed properly or something like that, you can actually say, well, actually the process was, properly done until you left, and actually here are my findings. I wouldn't send it to her now because I think that would just cause unnecessary nonsense, but have it ready in case you need it one day.
Right. So basically, I would detail the fact that I would have dismissed you on the basis of gross misconduct.
Yeah. So for yourself, you would you wouldn't necessarily do. You would for yourself. You'd write those kind of notes to say that this is what the points were. This was my investigation. This is what I found, and actually, that would have led to the points not being upheld and further disciplinary for the following things that were found in my investigation. So you're doing it as if the person's there and you're keeping that internally for yourself, just as a backup if you ever needed that.
Yeah, just as bullet points. It doesn't have to be full sentences, just as bullet points. And then if they do come back to you and say, what about, which is highly unlikely, but if they do say what about, let us know, and then we can decide what the best wording is depending on what they've asked, how they framed it. But if it's more than 4 months since they've left and they ask, we really don't care. It's like, and we'll probably say something suitable along the line of sort of statute of limitations has expired on this, go away, thank you.
Fine, good. And also, I think you mentioned this a long, long time ago, but if a business was looking to outsource tasks to people or workers that are not in the UK, either as self-employed or as part of the company.
No, self-employed, never as part of the company.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Or was self-employed? And are there any sort of caveats on that from an HR perspective? I mean, if someone's self-employed, there's no HR, is there?
No HR.
Yeah. So freelancers.
Yeah.
They can be anywhere in the world because their taxes and their rules and their employment law, all of that, it's all their problem. None of it's your problem.
Right. So the only consideration then would be GDPR, really, and security.
Yes. Although it's less, it depends. Yeah, it depends obviously what you're asking them to do. But yes.
But like if they got access to your data, like your client's details, then you would have to have something in place, wouldn't you, I guess?
Probably, yes. You'd need to work out what is going to work. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably need to, I don't know, update your information for your clients to say where the data's going or something like that. But
yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's me for the minute. If you run out of people with questions, I'm sure I can find more.
Yeah, sure. Right. Kerry, nice to see you. Have you got any questions?
No, I've literally just started a new role this morning.
Oh, wow. Well done.
I've worked in the NHS as a manager previously, but I'm a clinician by background.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot to sort out in the company that I've joined. So I think just being present and hearing the conversations is really useful for me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's a sort of shorter version this week because it is the Easter holiday type time.
Yeah.
Normally we will go through more horror stories of things that we've had that week. So yes.
Yeah, I do have a question from I was accosted this morning when I went into the room, and one of there's like two companies and the processes currently don't align. So one person wants to move from one company to the other, even though they're owned by the same person, and she's querying redundancy, etc. So I've clarified with her that her role within her existing company, with that first company, is not made redundant.
No.
What she's keen to do is maintain her continuous length of service. So how would we approach that, Carolyne?
It would be just that if the business owner is very happy to recognise that, would be just in the contract to say your continuous service starts from this date and your service in this role starts from this new date. So there wouldn't be anything else you need to give her financially at all. It would just be writing that into the new contract.
Okay. And currently one of the companies works a 40-hour week and the other company works 37 and a half. So essentially, she would have to, I assume, take the contract for the new place and then her salary would be adjusted to reflect the hours.
Yes.
Well, she would.
It depends what has actually been agreed, because she's obviously
nothing's been agreed. She just keeps chasing people around the building to try and get them to agree to something. But
okay, so is there an open position that's being advertised that she's applying for?
No, it's just it's not necessarily a position. It's just a space at the moment where they need support, but they can take her on.
Okay. So it would be making sure with her, it's like, okay, there is this role. These are the terms and conditions. Are you happy to go ahead? And then you'll find out whether she is or not.
Okay.
Yeah, and if she is happy to go ahead, then you would put it into a contract and get her to sign it. And she's not allowed. I'm going to say it does feel a little bit like she's creating a little bit more drama about this, and needs to, that she can't start in the new role until she signs a contract.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So we just literally transfer the terms and conditions of the company she's transferring to. She signs a contract to say she's accepting. No,
absolutely. No. So this, you would treat her just like you would treat any other candidate. So if she's approached you about a job, you go to her and say, this is the job, this is the terms and conditions, this is the pay, everything. She then goes, yes, I'd like the job. You then send her a contract that is a contract from the job in the company she's going to work for. So which means if she's currently working 40 hours, she'll then work 37. If she's currently earning 50 and this job is 35, then that's what she wants and that's what she gets and that's what she signs for. And then she starts the job. So don't let her, because it feels a bit like she's trying to make you let her do that job, but on these terms. and you don't end up in that situation. You're like, you can stay in this job on these terms, or you can go in that job on those terms.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's
and the only thing. I'm sorry. The only thing that you would bring over, like she said, is that continuous service, but nothing else from the previous role.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. What questions have we had? We've got pay increases. We've got in the golf club sector. One club came to us because the greenkeepers have now decided that they're being paid £4,000 per year less than they should be, because they've gone out and they've talked to their organisation, their professional organisation, and their professional organisation said, oh, you should be on this. It's like, okay, I know how they just create, they just think it should be more. They don't know how much more it should be, that this organisation, and it's just really frustrating that, and particularly because the head greenkeeper's gone in and said, yes, I want to have another 6,000 because I'm not paid enough. It's like, you're supposed to be on senior management side, not as part of the team. It's just a bit weird. And they've discovered that the contracts that we drew up for them, talking to whoever was in charge, 5 years ago, they're like, well, we haven't been paying the overtime because they didn't know they had overtime paid. So they've now got a claim for back pay for the overtime that they didn't know they had paid. And it's like, wow, this is really quite impressive. So one of the things I need to do is just go and check how far back they have to go, because with holiday, if you haven't paid the right amount of holiday, you only go back 2 years. If somebody hasn't flagged up that they're not being paid the right amount of holiday, if they don't flag it within 2 years, they lose that. That's their problem. It's only if it's minimum wage that goes back till whenever, day one, day pre-one. But the other pays, it's like you are expected as an employee to raise if there's a problem. And the fact that one of the greenkeepers came in and said, in my contract, it says, what, if you not read your contract, you were given it 3 years ago. Why have you not raised this before now? So a little bit frustrating. And the other thing was that somebody's on SSP and what pension contributions should be paid. And pension contributions are paid as a percentage of what the actual pay is. So if they're paid SSP for a month, the pension contributions are based on that SSP amount. So you don't have to pay them. It's not like maternity pay. So maternity pay, you have to pay full employer pensions based on their salary, and they pay pension contributions based on SMP. When you're on sick pay, it's just on the amount that you're paid as sick pay. So it's a lot more straightforward. And the payroll software can sort this out. So why have you not asked your payroll software? Just put it in, see what it spits out. So, Nadia, have you got anything?
Yes, I've had a interesting one actually a couple of weeks ago before I went off, regarding maternity. This club was getting very frustrated with one of their employees who was on maternity leave. She had not been clear before she went on maternity leave how long she will be taking. As we find, most people are not. They're like, well, I might take the year, but if I can't afford it, I might come back after the pay stops, kind of thing. If that happens, if you don't have someone saying to you, I plan to come back on this date, then you always take it as the full 52 weeks. And if they then want to come back earlier, they must give you 8 weeks notice of this. This club has done the opposite. Because she wasn't specific about when she would be returning, they have decided that she is due back at the end of the 39 weeks, which is the paid time. Because that's when they have to stop paying her, so that's when she has to come back. And they have been hassling her. I mean, messages, emails, phone calls weekly to try and get her to tell them when she'll come back. So she's been on maternity leave just over 5 months. So they're getting really edgy. They're like, any day now, she's got to come back. She's not talking to us. They are at the point that they want to sack her because she refuses to confirm that she'll come back. And she's at the point where she stopped answering their questions because she's like, I'm not sure. What's made them even more angry is that she's actually working a couple of days a week part-time at a local stables. So that has made them even more angry because they are upset that she's on maternity leave and getting maternity pay, but working somewhere else. Now, unfortunately, this is something she has done for years. And me and Mel, both being horse people, probably realize that she probably doesn't even get paid for it, and she maybe just gets some free livery. But even if she is paid for it, the fact that she's doing a small part-time job while she's on maternity leave doesn't break any rules. And they want to report her to HMRC. And I'm like, there's nothing to report. Like, she's not breaking any rules by having a small part-time job that's probably paying her peanuts. And she's not coming back to you about when she wants to return because you're harassing her about it, because you have decided when she should return without allowing her the full time that she's entitled to. So they really struggled to understand that. And then in the end, they came out with the, okay, but she's, a really important part of our greens team. And, we can't hire anyone and she's not been here for 5 months. And that's the point where I went, why have you not hired maternity cover? The whole problem here is your fault as the employer for not hiring maternity cover. Now you're trying to harass a person and bully them into coming back early. And you're now trying to find lots of little reasons to sack her just so you can hire someone, which you should have done in the first place. So, yeah, just a little bit of a how it can really go wrong story for you guys. It was so bad that I think I laughed at some points. And I was like, I can't believe this is true. I cannot believe this is true.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it happens a lot with maternity, that particularly if it's a male manager, that they're like, oh, they're going off on maternity, and they might get the MAP-B1 form to prove there was pregnancy, but they're not willing to have the conversation about, okay, well, how long are you thinking of being off and what's your plan and everything? They're like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's up to them. It's like, yes, but they need to tell you what the dates are. When are they going off on maternity leave? When are they intending to come back? Oh, and like Nadia said, it's like, if they don't tell you when they're coming back, you assume a year. That's it. And you would only start chasing towards the end of that, well, the 11th month. It's like, right, looking forward to welcoming you back on this date, and then see if they give you notice. So, but yeah, it's just funny. People are funny. There you go. Right. So, Mel, have you got any more questions?
I have a very brief one that was triggered by Kerry, and that is this 37.5 versus 40, because I've got admins at 40 and I've got physios at 40 and now physios at 37.5, which I had to do because it was a sponsorship and they tell you how much you have to pay and how many hours you have to do, right? So now I've got the thing where there's a discrepancy. So does that mean then that I have to have all of my staff that have a clinical job have to have the same hours, or is it just something I negotiate with that person on that contract?
Well, it's going to affect the pay because they're doing less hours potentially. I wouldn't adjust any holiday or any sick pay for that. No. So it really is just what you're paying them as a salary. Yeah. So if they're working 37.5 hours, they get less than if they're working 40 hours. Right. Okay. So, but they don't have to be on the same number of hours. No. Right. So the fact is, I can agree per person because I've got somebody on 35 actually, but it's prorated, so it's based on an annual salary, which I've put is based on a 40-hour week. But if I've got somebody that's got an annual salary on 37.5 hours, it's because, you have to treat everyone equally. It's this whole thing. I mean, I didn't change it to 37.5. It was the sponsorship thing that did. So, yeah. I think if you've got somebody who's on 35 hours a week, you do need to adjust the holiday because that's not full time. Whereas 37.5 and 40 are close enough that it's not worth the hassle, to be honest. Yeah. But otherwise, yeah.
But it's not an HR contentious point if people have different hours on their contracts. If they were to compare, if one said to the other, oh, I'm on 40 hours or I'm on 37.5, it doesn't matter.
No, and especially if your answer to someone who comes and says, oh, why is Susie on 37.5 and I'm on 40? Just be like, your pay reflects what you're working. End of. That's your answer. But I do want to ask you about paid and unpaid breaks, because that might be your way out of this. So the employees on the contract who have 40 hours a week, is that 40 hours including breaks?
No, everyone is unpaid breaks.
Okay. Oh, no, I was thinking, if your 40 hours said including breaks, then you could have said your 37.5 is excluding breaks, because then it's still 40. But that would have just been a coincidental loophole.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to leave it there for now. Everybody have a lovely weekend. And I won't be here next week. I will be in Seattle next week, going to do my Alaska cruise. But Nadia will be taking care of you for a couple of weeks. So have a good weekend, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, bye. Bring questions next week. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free tribunal audit of your employment contract and handbook, click the link in the description below.